Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose needs no introduction. Perhaps the most charismatic and uncompromising of the top-notch freedom fighters, he remains one of India's most revered icons, with every political organization trying to shine in his reflected glory. In fact, such is his charm on people's minds that a section of Indians believe that he is still alive and will return someday to liberate us from our misery. Although all major biographies of Netaji have concluded, he passed away on the night of 18th August 1945 after being grievously injured at the aeroplane crash at Taihuku Airport. Many find this unacceptable. They believe it was a ploy set up by Netaji himself to hoodwink the Allied forces and reach a safe place to continue his struggle. Others believe that Netaji, a lifelong political activist, became a recluse and settled in northern India. And yet, another set are convinced he was betrayed by Nehru and Gandhi, the usual suspects nowadays, and imprisoned in some Soviet gulag. Today, it is an undeniable tragedy that these never-ending theories have eclipsed the life and achievements of this prince among patriots. He has been reduced to a mystery thriller. Of course, all theories must stand the test of investigation, and in recent years, two incidents allow us to freshly probe them. In 2015, the West Bengal government released a set of files related to Netaji and his family from the state archives. The declassification of 304 Netaji files from the various central ministries followed soon after in January 2016. In contrast to popular belief, these central files were not the only batch to be released. Rather, they were the last lot. Government of India had in fact released a total of 2,324 files since 1997 and has since categorically declared in Parliament on 2nd March 2016 that there are no more classified Netaji files in its archives. To any enthusiastic student of history, these files present a wealth of data that show how several independent investigations have been conducted into what happened to Netaji in August 1945. It is imperative that these findings of these investigations be presented to the Indian people. Today, if asked about investigations regarding the death of Netaji, most people would recall the Mukherjee Commission, as also the Shahnawaz and Khosla commissions. However, even before the first of these was appointed by Government of India in 1956, 6 formal investigations had been carried out to probe the aeroplane crash at Taihuku Airport. Importantly, these were carried out by the British Army, the Government of British India, the Government of Japan, and the Allied forces. The reason was simple. The British and the Americans wanted to find out whether Netaji, whose Azad Hind Fauj had fought against them in the jungles of Burma and Imphal campaigns, was alive or not. After all, he was the most uncompromising of the Indian nationalists. The advantage these investigators had was of time. The earlier investigators get to the accident site, the better it is. Soon after Japan's surrender, Admiral Mountbatten, Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asian Command, on August 30, 1945, sent an enquiry to General MacArthur, the Supreme Commander for Allied Powers in Japan, to conduct an enquiry about the death of Netaji. On September 19, 1945, the Japanese government submitted a preliminary report on the death of Subhash Chandra Bose to MacArthur's office. Among other details, it stated, Bose, injured in an air crash on 18 August 1945, died the same evening. Independent of the Americans, in September 1945, the British India government sent superintendents of police Finney and Davis, assisted by inspectors H.K. Roy and K.P. Dey, to investigate. The team visited Bangkok, Saigon, and Taihoku for the purpose. The Davis and Roy team interrogated the in charge of the Saigon airport, the military officers of the Taihoku airport, and the chief medical officer at the Nanmon Military Hospital of Taihoku. The Bangkok team complimented them by retrieving a telegram dated 20th August 1945 that had been sent from the Chief of Staff of the Japanese Southern Army to Hikari Kikan. Using the code T for Bose, the telegram read, T, while on his way to the capital, as a result of an accident to his aircraft at Taihoku at 2 p.m. on the 18th, was seriously injured and died at midnight on the same date. Two investigations had clearly concluded that Netaji was no more, but the rumors going around in India that he was alive and would return, and the huge support for the INA veterans unnerved the British. And so, in mid-1946, Colonel Figgis, senior British intelligence officer attached to General MacArthur's command in Tokyo, was deputed to carry out another round of investigation in search of His Majesty's opponent. Between May and July of 1946, Figgis interrogated 6 Japanese officials in Tokyo in connection with the incident. The most important testimony that Figgis collected was of the Japanese doctor Toyoshi Suruta, who had been present at the Nanmon hospital where Netaji was rushed to after the crash. Dr. Suruta submitted. Bose asked him in English if he would sit with him throughout the night. However, shortly after 7 o'clock, he suffered a relapse, and although the doctor once again administered a camphor injection, he sank into a coma and died shortly afterwards. Figgis submitted his report on 25th July 1946. He concluded, "It is confirmed for certain that S.C. Bose died in a Taihoku military hospital sometime between 19 hours and 20 hours local time on the 18th August 1945. The medical officer in charge of the military hospital at Taihoku was Captain Dr. Yoshimi Tanayoshi of the Japanese Army, and he had been imprisoned in Hong Kong after the war. There, in October 1946, Captain Alfred Turner of the War Crimes Liaison Section of Taiwan recorded Dr. Yoshimi's testimony. He said, "When he was laid on the bed, I personally cleaned his injuries with oil and dressed them. He was suffering from extensive burns over the whole of his body, though the most serious were those on his head, chest, and thighs. There was very little left on his head in the way of hair or other identification marks." Yoshimi further reported, "As most of his speaking was in English, a request for an interpreter was made, and one was sent from the civil government office named Nakamura. He informed me that he had very often interpreted for Chandra Bose and had had many conversations with him. He appeared to have no doubt that the man he was speaking to was Chandra Bose. After the 4th hour, he appeared to be sinking into unconsciousness. He murmured and muttered in a state of coma, but never regained consciousness. At about 11 p.m., he died." Few years later, Yoshimi repeated the same sequence of events before both Shahnawaz-led Netaji Inquiry Committee in 1956 and the 1974 Justice G.D. Khosla Commission. Furthermore, in one of his later interviews in 1995, Yoshimi said, "A lieutenant called Nonomiya told me this is Mr. Chandra Bose, a very important person, and that I should save his life at any cost. That's how I knew who he was." He also recalled that when it seemed obvious to him that Bose's condition was sinking, he asked the patient, "What can I do for you?" Bose replied, "I feel as if blood is rushing to my head. I would like to sleep a while." Yoshimi gave him an injection, and after some time, he was no more. When India sought Japan's permission to conduct inquiry on their land on Netaji's death, Japan submitted a detailed report to India in January 1956. They had interviewed 13 witnesses connected with the incident that included Netaji's co-passengers and the doctors who attended Netaji in the military hospital in Taipei. Among other things, the investigators noted that when the pitch of the propellers was hiked on the plane reaching a height of 20 meters, one petal of the three-petal propeller of the left wing was suddenly broken and the engine fell off. The airplane, subsequently unbalanced, crashed into ballast piles beside the strip of the airport. Immediately after the plane's fall, the passengers on board escaped from it. But as the persons in the front deck were soaked with gasoline in auxiliary tanks all over their bodies, they suffered serious burns. Lieutenant General Shide and other two men died within the plane. Mr. Bose, wrapped up in flames, got off the plane. Adjutant Rahman and other passengers exerted themselves to take his clothes off, but as his thick sweater for cold weather was permeated with gasoline, his whole body was seriously wounded by burns. In the hospital, in spite of several injections of heart stimulant and artificial aspiration, he could not survive. By his side then was Dr. Suruta, Habibur, interpreter Nakamura, and a guard. In addition to other findings, the report mentions that Bose's cremated remains were handed over to Mr. Iyer and the articles left by Mr. Bose to Mr. Murthy by Lieutenant Colonel Takakura a few minutes past noon on 8 September 1945 at the Imperial Headquarters, Tokyo. In May 1956, on India's request, UK asked the Taiwanese government to interview the employees of the military hospital and Taipei Municipal Health Center. Dr. Chang Wen-sing of the General Hospital, formerly Nanmon Hospital, Ku Keng-wan, Director of Health Center, Lee Chin-kyu, Tan T.T., both employees of Taipei Municipal Health Center, and others were interviewed by the Taiwanese government. Tan T.T. stated, at about 4 p.m., the Japanese army officer who came to apply for the cremation permit the day before came to the crematorium in a car in the company of an Indian. At the same time, a military truck brought a box-like coffin. There were several soldiers who unloaded the coffin. She continued stating, those present at the crematorium were the Japanese officer, the Indian, H. Komomoto, the manager of the crematorium, Lin Bui-mu, a laborer, and myself. The Indian, dressed in the white garment of Japanese soldiers under medical care, wore slippers. Parts of his face were bandaged. He was tall and swarthy, kept bitterly, and seemed extremely sorrowful. She continued, Lin and I opened the coffin. The body was packed in powdered lime. It was feared that the body would not be completely consumed by fire. Therefore, the lime was removed and then the body put on a plank. The body was taken to the old furnace. The army officer said, the deceased was Bose, the Indian leader. From the time of the accident and the subsequent stay in the hospital, right up to the time of his death, never uttered a groan or gave vent to any expression of pain, and must indeed have been a very great person. Next day, the Indian came in the company of the army officer, brought a pair of chopsticks, opened the locker with the key given to him previously by Lin, and used the chopsticks to pick up the bone remnants one by one from the ashes and deposit them into a wooden box. He was very solemn, wrapped the box with white cloth and left in a private car together with the army officer. Lee Chin-kyu stated, what I know corresponds with what Tan T.T. has said. The Taiwan government appended the eyewitness account on completion of the investigation and submitted the report to the UK mission, who in turn sent it to Government of India. The Taiwanese report nowhere cast any doubt on the crash and the subsequent death of Netaji. The Japanese preliminary report, submitted on 19 September 1945 to MacArthur's office, the British India Government Davis and Finney report of 1945, the Figgis report of 25 July 1946, the Turner's report of October 1946, Japanese detailed report of January 1956, Taiwanese report of June 1956. All the 6 investigations carried out by the British Army, the Government of British India, Government of Japan and the Allied forces clearly concluded that Netaji was no more. That ended their hot pursuit. But people were not privy to these reports. They remained in the files of the respective governments for the next 50 years or so. The first Indian investigation into the air accident was by Harin Shah, war correspondent of the Free Press Journal, Bombay. Shah visited Taihoku in September 1946 to investigate the reported death of Netaji in a plane crash. He published his findings in his book, Verdict from Formosa, Gallant End of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. One of the most important highlights from Shah's investigative journalism was the testimony of San P. Shah, a nurse at the Nanmon Hospital. She confirmed the account recorded by Figgis in September 1946. She said, "He died here. I was by his side. He died on 18th August last year, Chandra Bose. I am a surgical nurse and took care of him till he died. I was instructed to apply olive oil all over his body, and that I did." Whenever he regained briefly his consciousness, he felt thirsty. With slight groaning, he would ask for water. I gave him water several times. She then took Harin Shah to the southwest corner of the ward and to the bed where Bose had passed away. The members of the Indian Independence League, IIL, the civilian administrative wing of the Provisional Government of Free India, carried out an investigation based on circumstantial evidence and individual contact. It brought out a report in 1953 after conducting sustained investigation in different parts of East Asia. The IIL agreed with the previous reports that Netaji had passed away on 18th August 1945. But it concluded that the aircraft crash had not been an accident, but an act of sabotage. According to the IIL, Japanese officials could neither risk shielding Netaji from the Allies lest he resurfaced, nor hand him over to them and endanger relations with Indians. So, to save herself from the wrath of both India and the occupation forces, Japanese officials first diverted the route of Netaji's plane, separated him from 5 of his 6 associates, and let only one to travel with him. Incidentally, Japan still keeps 3 Netaji files as secret, while rest of the countries have declassified all. Notwithstanding these investigations, as the demand for an official probe into the fate of Netaji grew stronger, the Government of India set up the Netaji Inquiry Committee in 1956 to inquire into the circumstances concerning the departure of Netaji from Bangkok about the 16th of August 1945 and his alleged death as a result of an aircraft accident. The committee consisted of Shah Nawaz Khan, former Major General in the INA, then Parliamentary Secretary, Netaji's elder brother Suresh Chandra Bose, and S.N. Moitro, ICS. The findings of the commission are a voluminous work, digitized and available in the public domain today. The committee examined 67 witnesses, including 11 eyewitnesses to the incident, who confirmed Netaji's death as a result of burn injuries from the air crash. They cross-examined 5 of the 6 persons who had accompanied Netaji on his last flight from Bangkok, which included Netaji's only Indian companion, Habibur Rahman. The witnesses included Captain K.R.I., Colonel M. Yano, Major S. Nagatomo, Major Kono, and Major Takahashi. On conclusion of the inquiry, the committee prepared a 3-page draft report. It contained the principal points agreed to, which all the 3 members signed. The principal points agreed to included 1. There had been an air crash at Taihuku on 18th August 1945 in which Netaji met his death. 2. That he was cremated there. And 3. The ashes lying in the Renkoji temple in Tokyo are his ashes. Strangely, soon after signing the draft report on 2nd July 1956, Suresh Bose took a different view for reasons of his own and did not sign the final report. The final report, signed by Khan and Moitro, was submitted on 3rd August 1956. The report received government's acceptance in September 56 through Parliament. Suresh's dissentient report, which concluded that the aircraft accident did not take place and Netaji did not die, was also tabled in the Parliament. Besides his conclusions, Suresh made some personal allegations against Nehru, Khan, Moitro, and B.C. Roy. Shahnawaz Khan objected to Suresh Bose's allegations. He threw a challenge to Mr. Bose through a 6-page statement. Shahnawaz committee could not afford to be wrong. They'd have political reasons to find out the correct answer. Imagine, they declared Netaji is dead and he turned out alive. Shahnawaz would have no place to hide. The team had reasons to be objective. They had the big advantage of speaking to actual witnesses. A decade later, in February 1966, Suresh Bose announced to the press that his brother Subhash would return in March. Obviously, that did not happen. Nevertheless, his dissentient report added to some people's belief that Netaji was still alive and the controversy on Netaji's non-appearance was not resolved. The committee was criticized for not visiting Taihoku and also because neither Shahnawaz nor Moitro had judicial experience. In addition, presence of a Sharodhananda Sadhu at Shoilomari Ashram in North Bengal in the 60s, who many believed to be Netaji incognito, led to a persistent demand for further inquiry. In 1970, the Government of India set up the Justice Khoshla Commission, and retired Justice G.D. Khoshla was asked to inquire into all the facts and circumstances relating to the disappearance of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in 1945. Not surprisingly, nothing new came out of Khoshla Commission. Justice Khoshla interviewed 4 of Netaji's co-passengers of the ill-fated plane and 5 eyewitnesses to the crash. Over a period of 4 years, he also interviewed Shahnawaz Khan, Suresh Bose, 224 other witnesses, and concluded that Netaji had been grievously injured by the aircraft crash at Taihoku and passed away the same night. But the Khoshla Commission patiently recorded all news stories about Netaji. of an MP's chance meeting with Netaji at Marseille airport in 1946, an ardent admirer of Bose reporting that a Russian army officer saw a well-dressed Bose publicly going to the Kremlin with high dignitaries on 24 December 1956, as against another MP's version of Bose languishing in cell number 45 of a prison in Siberia. Then there are others submitting photographs showing Bose visiting Peking in 1952 with a Mongolian trade union delegation, and in the same year, a Socialist Party member meeting Netaji dressed as Burmese monk at Rengu's Ina Lake. As story upon fantastic story piled up, Justice Khoshla rightly wondered to what extent fantasy and perversion of truth can proceed. When counsels argued that there was a general disbelief of the air crash as there were glaring discrepancies in the statements of witnesses, Justice Khoshla recorded, "The discrepancies do not falsify the crash. They are due to passage of time and the memory of witnesses becoming somewhat vague regarding matters of detail." Most significantly, the report records Netaji's nephew Omyanath Bose's deposition. "I remember in December 1945, father took Netaji's death for granted. He was very moved by seeing the watch and said, 'Same watch, same watch.'" The early investigations by recognized authorities at home and abroad have come to surface only in recent years. Many are unaware of these. Others prefer to go by hearsay of the type they like to hear. This attitude continues even after the inconclusive findings of the Third Inquiry Commission, that is, Justice Mukherjee Commission of 1999-2006, held more than 50 years after 1945. Very few bother to delve into details and direct evidences in search of facts. Thus, although 10 investigations have concluded that burn injuries from the aeroplane crash led to his untimely and tragic demise on 18th August 1945, conspiracy games continue around the last phase of Netaji's amazing life. One of India's greatest sons has been reduced to a whodunit.
कली 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 ये अंधली हटा चली, गली 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 ये आम फल लगा रही। सुहासनी हो जाने हिंद आ गए, नाग जिससे हिंद को वशान हिंद आ गए। सुहासनी हो जाने हिंद आ गए, नाग जिससे